Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. With host and founder, Richard Case, and co-host and retreat leader, Kathy Ricconi. Jesus reminds us to watch for the signs of his return. Today, we will explore further what we are seeing in our times that line up with what signs he said would indicate the potential of the end and his return. We will also discuss the practical meaning of this as we watch and as a remnant prepare as he so leads. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is what we call End Times Friday, and we are having session 2 about Israel with our good friends Eric from Israel and Rabbi Ephraim from Israel as well, and Denny and Kathy and I. And last week we talked about the hostage situation, the negotiations, that the population is kind of torn between, yeah, it's good to get people back, but what we're giving up is releasing terrorists back to attack us again, so that's not creating safety. And that there is a movement where Hamas is going to rearm and reform up, which is inevitable. And it was really hoping it would be 5 to 10 years, but it may be sooner. And Eric, you felt that it would be sooner. Rabbi Ephraim, what's your thought about that and the population's thought about this?
Yeah, so Eric definitely explained clearly how the risks are still there. And one of the reasons why we're uncomfortable, even if you agree with the deal, but it's creating a lot of hard feelings, is because Hamas has made it very clear that they want to do this again and again. There's no possible imagination of how evil they can be and how cruel and barbaric they would like to be with Israeli civilians by the thousands.
Yeah.
So they're clear on that. So the only thing that will stop them is us. And so how would we create a more secure Gaza? There's a few things that we can do. One is the army stays in Gaza. 2, they had Gaza sort of split across so that you would have to cross through an Israeli area and to get from the north to the south. And that's another good way of controlling smuggling of arms and weapons and rockets. And another really big one is the Egyptian border, where they smuggled in most of their weapons and rockets and everything they needed to manufacture all that. And that's through the Philadelphia corridor that's on the Egyptian border. So every one of those things we're now withdrawing from. We've given up on this. We've given up on the Philadelphia corridor. So the potential, no one knows who is going to be supposedly watching the border. We don't know. The army is going to be withdrawing. They can start smuggling. It'll be a little harder than before, and we can be rather as helpful because there's less money around for them to support the weaponry and everything. But all the elements are there for them to rebuild as they did before. So it just doesn't create a very hopeful situation for us.
What's your prediction as to when they will press again with attacking with missiles and the stuff?
They're usually real patient when it comes to building up until they feel they are ready to hit us really hard. And it's like there's this Middle Eastern warfare outlook that they're really, really patient. Sometimes hundreds of years since. But what happened Hamas took over about 18 years ago, and they spent 18 years almost preparing for October 7th, raising the children to want to be terrorists, importing arms, building hundreds and hundreds of miles of underground tunnels.
Right.
They spent years and billions of dollars in order to be ready to do something huge against us. So, I don't think they're going to, and they know if they start, if they start low-level stuff that will make their long-term goals more difficult to accomplish. At the same time, they always like to be terrorizing, so they'll probably within no time after the deal is finished, they'll start low-level terrorism and rockets against us just to show that they're still there, they're still in power, to get their people excited and supportive of their movement by continuing to terrorize us. So it won't take too long for low-level aggression and terrorism, but big stuff.
Eric, do you have any prediction as to when you think how long it'll take before they start to have a major initiative against Israel again?
I can guess, it took from what 2023, that 15, 16 years last time. But I think I'm slowing again. But there's some other mitigating factors here that need to be considered, I think, in this thinking. Basic, it was better, you guys have seen the pictures on TV, and it looks like, the problem, Gaza looks like the land of some apocalyptic movie. The IDF found arms in every home, and I'm not exaggerating, every home, children's bedrooms, it's hidden inside children's pillows and beds. There were tunnel entrances underneath children's beds, and they ended up destroying these homes. There's not a lot for the Gazan citizens to go back to in terms of where to live right now. So the question arises, okay, Hamas certainly expect, some sugar daddy, Qatar or Saudi Arabia or some other idiotic country is going to come up and give us money to rebuild. But I think they're fooling themselves. And Saudi Arabia said this, and any country with the deep pockets that would put up money now to rebuild Gaza, leaving Hamas in charge, they're idiots. Because they know Hamas is going to repeat what it just did, and when it does, the IDF is going to go in and blow everything up. So why would you invest the money into an entity, knowing that somewhere between 10 to 20 years from now, Israel's going to blow it up again?
Yeah.
Why would you just do the thing? Okay? So the only country that comes to mind, like three countries that come to mind that consider doing such a stupid thing. One is Qatar. They have so much money flowing through that, and they support the Muslim Brotherhood, they support the Taliban, they support Al-Qaeda, they support ISIS financially, and they just got so much money, they just, give all these fanatical groups. Turkey, but Turkey's going to be busy now with Syria.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to have a lot of time or money to invest inside Hamas. And Iran doesn't give proxies money to build homes. It gives its proxies money in order to, position arms and hire an army. So, and the United States, President Trump gets wind of this properly and plays the cards well. He should basically threaten Qatar. You're not going to do this. The United States has incredible leverage over Qatar. It's a country with a population of 200,000 people sitting on unbelievable oil wealth. And the United States has a major base there. Well, if the United States says, well, this relationship's not working really well for us, we're going to move our base, then you're leaving all this oil wealth in the hands of 200,000 people without an army in the Middle East. Now, how secure is that?
Yeah.
So the United States has incredible leverage over Qatar to prevent them from throwing money in order to rebuild Hamas. And so it's not going to be so simple, for Hamas anywhere in Gaza to form itself, where do you get money from? The countries in Europe and the United States, the UN, and they're going to take over care of rebuilding, and we're going to rebuild our tunnels. I mean, that's what they're thinking. That's their strategy. I'm not so sure that's going to work out the way they think. It may. I mean, there are idiots born every day, and there are idiots from other countries every day, and the UN is certainly filled with it. And so,
Yeah, go ahead, Rabbi.
One way is, first of all, I don't think Hamas cares so much whether they rebuild, because Hamas, they don't care about their civilian population. The more they keep their population suffering, poor, they win public relations points with the world and sympathy for their cause. They are not interested in governing. They're interested in maintaining power and being able to rebuild their terrorism infrastructure. And they also do that, even if there's a huge amount of money coming in for rebuilding, tons of money is coming in all the time in the form of humanitarian aid. And they are known very clearly to be, stealing most of that, and through that, getting tons of money into their coffers, which they then use to pay, they're the largest employer in Gaza, and they use it to pay and to recruit new terrorists. And having that cash flow is really important for them to rebuild. And at a minimum, they can take full advantage of all the humanitarian aid that continues to flow in there. And any other money, whoever are the idiots, as Eric is saying, someone is going to be an idiot to give some money, and they're just going to scarf it up and use it for rebuilding terrorism and not so much for rebuilding apartments.
Will the go ahead? Will the on the Gaza border then, if they pull back, Israel pulls back, will they just observe what does happen, and then if they reach a certain point, we'll go back in and attack them to try to eliminate it, and they won't press it until they need to press it? But is that how they're going to look at this at Gaza?
There were certain parts of the military that were generally outvoted in the past that advocated. We had a defense minister, Avigdor Lieberman, under Netanyahu, maybe 10, 12 years ago, and then after him was Naftali Bennett, was the defense minister under Netanyahu, and both of them were pushing hard to go into Gaza. And I think the time this was 10 years ago or so. And the military and then Prime Minister Netanyahu at the time resisted. And part of the reason they resisted is that for Israel to go into Gaza and Palestinians going along, living things to do within the Israeli population, to some extent, it needs to be justified at some level. Okay, for Israeli citizens to tolerate casualties in its fighting force, there has to be a rationale for why we're going to go do this. And it was felt at the time that there wasn't enough of a justification to those Israeli lives to go into Gaza. Because when you go to Gaza, you're going to soldier. Okay, it's just like sure. And so the question is what will it take for Israel just like to wake up one day? They reach their limit on tunnels, we're going to go and blow them up. It doesn't work that way. There's going to have to be some incident which justifies, A, within the Israeli population rationale for taking action, and there is some issue with international legitimacy. When we first went into Gaza, the Biden administration tried to stop us, but everyone understood why we had to go into Gaza. And certainly the population in Israel had no doubt we had to go in and go do something. Because it took a very horrendous event. In 2014 we went in because they kidnapped and then killed 3 Israelis, 6 yeshiva students. So we went in and we launched, and we lost a lot of men there because it was guerrilla warfare. Wow. Without achieving a lot of the goals we would like. So I think it's very hard that we did. So you have to think about something else when you're looking at this military situation militarily. Okay, so Israel secures the border around Gaza. It has its buffer zone. And what's Hamas going to do? Okay, so it's going to rebuild. Let's say Hamas is still running. Okay. Let's even say that there's some idiot out there, or a collective group of idiots give them money, rebuild Gaza, and then build it where they're going. What are they going to do? Because they're going to build tunnels. Okay, but the only tunnels really really help them when Israel goes in with the fighting force. Then they can hide in the tunnels and attack the Israelis. Doesn't help them attack Israel unless the tunnels actually underneath Israel. And we're being told there's enough technology now to make the detection to happen. Maybe not. Pretty deep. And we're on the verge of launching what they call here now, they're calling here now the Iron Beam. You guys have probably heard about the Iron Dome, That was an Israeli-created technology which takes out rockets within a few seconds being fired. It calculates their trajectory, determines whether they're going to hit a civilian, population center or not, decides whether to intercede. If it does, it'll neutralize them. It's pretty effective. It's pretty effective. But you can make a rocket for I don't know, a few $100s. Each one of those iron dome rocket missiles will cost something like I think $50,000, $100,000. They're still expensive. Well, Iron Beam is a laser-based system. It's proven effective in the field. It was the same guidance system that Iron Dome uses, but now it's using a laser. And it'll be very effective and very cost-effective in taking down rockets. Okay? And so, you're a military person, you're thinking to yourself, so what can Hamas do? If they can neutralize 99% of the rockets using laser beam, what are they going to do? I don't know. So I'm trying to give you something to.
Well, I don't know the specifics of the thing, but I think one of the lessons that a lot of Israelis took from October 7th is you don't want to leave your security situation in a situation where your enemies are amassing and building up their capabilities, and they're surprised, what they're going to come up with next time. And we're just like defending ourselves from rockets, and hopefully, they will shoot at us too much. They want too many rockets. We can shoot them down. The defensive position while our enemies are building up their plans on the other side of the border is not a good strategy for security. So I don't know what their plan is, but I don't think they're going to just defending ourselves from rockets.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. On the Hezbollah side, we know that you have a ceasefire. They're supposedly moving back behind the Litani River. How is that going? Are your population able to move back into their homes? And what do you see happening up there?
So the army. In a few days after the October 7th, the Army insisted on something based on unprecedented Israeli history. It's never been done before, where it's for the Nazi in the War of Independence, the evacuation of civilian population along the border. Never happened. And it did it largely because of the justifiable fear. That's what it was going to do on October 7th on Israel's liquids.
Yeah.
And the Army wasn't prepared to deal with it for the time. And sure enough, when we went into Lebanon, we found every bit of evidence that conclusively should demonstrate Hezbollah had something like October 7th, the Hamas attack on steroids, maybe 5 times worse. And that's what they had motorcycles and all the arms right along the border, and ready to win Israel. It was all there. It wasn't so much to remove them from rocket fire, because much of Israel was under rocket fire. So it wasn't the city of Haifa was under by Hezbollah. So it was now Haifa in the north during the whole time. None of the cities were evacuated. It was largely because of this reason. That threat is now, for the near term, gone. Okay, they're still finding arms in southern Lebanon. So there are funds being allocated of the current budget to help families reconstitute their homes. I think Kiryat Shimona and the Tuvla are pretty much decimated, so they may just tear them down and rebuild live. Right? I don't know the details. But they're now urging the students to start returning to their home. Regarding the ceasefire, Israel still has troops inside southern Lebanon, and it's still finding things on a daily basis.
Sure.
Just yesterday, they raised a bunch of rockets that were ready to fire against Israel. And Israel has requested from all the parties the 30 days. So there's an extension of, they could keep the troops in southern Lebanon for the 30 days because it's citing that the Lebanese army has not lived up to its obligations yet. It's making progress, but it's still far away from living up to its obligation of taking over security and control of the area between the tiny river and the Israeli border. But I think most people treat it will be accepted. Hezbollah, of course, will reject it, but we'll see. I think we'll see in the next 24 to 48 hours. Israel will probably keep its troops there temporarily. There have been operations not on a daily basis, but they've been tapering off elsewhere in Lebanon, where the Air Force has gone in and blown out areas. Things expect to see ceasefire. There are no attacks of any kind, aerial or otherwise, in and around it. Because of the respect of the ceasefire, that Israel has basically put these, France and the United States and whatever that, if we see Hezbollah rebuilding, ceasefire or no ceasefire, we're going to take action. Because the Lebanese army is not, we don't expect them to, the state is supposed to, they have an obligation, we're listening to it, but there's no sign that they're actually going to look at that environment. So that's kind of the status. There are also a small number of Israeli troops along with Syrian that have gone into Syrian territory. And they're there until the quote-unquote dust settles inside Syria, when we know just how this thing's going to unfold in terms of the government there. There's still signs of the enemy rebels, other people. In fact, just as a note to your listeners, there's a local community of about, somewhere between 100 and 200,000 Druze. Druze are Arab, and they live in either Lebanon, Syria, or Israel. They're not Muslims, they're different. They believe in one God. It's very different than Islam. One's living in Israel, are Israeli citizens, they're fighting in the army, they're very patriotic, and they're very well respected amongst the Israeli population. So the community and around the citizens, there were several times when the Israeli army threatened rebels. If they harmed the Jewish population in Syria, they were going to take action and those rebels back. Israel also had its good neighbor policy during the Syrian Civil War, where it was actually putting its hospitals to civilian patients that got injured during the course of the Civil War, and they actually got hospital care inside of Israel and went back to Syria. So Israel is seeing people here have long memories in this part of the world, and many of the Syrians in southern part of Syria remember. And Israel being paid, and there was a poll taken in these Druze towns inside southern Syria, all basically saying they wanted to be annexed by Israel for circumstances. I was mentioning that just thinking I do the sentiment now.
So, Rabbi, is it safe to say that at the moment, you don't have a big attack coming from Gaza, but potentially it's going to happen downstream? You have the same thing happening in northern border with Hezbollah, but again, they're going back behind Litani, but they'll arm up again. So is the thought within the country, at least we're going to have some period of semi-peace, or is it just a process of we know it's going to happen again, and we just don't know how soon it's going to happen, so we just got to keep that edge, so to speak, and concern going forward, and we can't really relax as a population?
Well, Richard, it's a good question. I think that people are looking forward to some relief. We desperately need relief from the intensity and the tragedy and the people being, soldiers being killed every day as we fight a war, and definitely want less of that for a good while. And so everyone's looking forward, and I believe that we'll have a lot more quiet than there has been for a while. But everyone is very well aware that it's just a matter of time, and I think also I believe there's a lot more determination in the general population and the government that we can't be as as lackadaisical about the security situation, even during quiet times like we were in the past. We sort of lulled ourselves to sleep, and we do that every 20 years. The Yom Kippur War, we just thought it could never happen, and the Intifada, we sort of think it never can happen. We like peace.
Yeah.
We get comfortable with it. But I think that this time was just, October 7th was just so devastating. I think there's more determination to not let our enemies rebuild to the extent that we can. As Eric pointed out, it's super complicated how that happens. But I think we'll be more aggressive about it.
Yeah.
And I hope we'll be more aggressive about it. And I do want to also mention that weakening Iran financially through sanctions, etc., as well as potentially they're attacking their nuclear attempts to build a bomb. All that can have a really significant effect on the rearming of Hamas, Hezbollah, across the board. They're supporting terror organizations that are in Judea and Samaria. So that will also be significantly slowing them down.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we're at the end of our time again, and we'll have you on maybe in several weeks to come back. We'd like to talk about what you just really stated is, and we kind of see this. The key is what's going to go on with Iran, and then what is Trump going to do with Netanyahu about it, and maybe we'll have some more input. But we'd love to talk to you about that. We'd like to talk to you about life in Israel. As we in America, we value the same thing, peace. We actually have it. We don't every day worry about this, going to happen next, but we know you do. So what does that really look like and feel like? And then what do you predict is going to happen with Netanyahu relative to the next election, and when will that be, and what we'll do, and how will that come together? So we got just all these questions that we'd like to pursue with you, and particularly about Iran, because we know that's kind of the key to the whole thing. So thank you so much again for just giving us this amazing input. It's quite different for us to hear the truth and what's really happening there, and then what the status is of that for us. So our audience is very appreciative of that, and they always ask us, how soon can we get those guys back for our next session with Denny, et cetera, because we just really need to receive it. So thank you so much. We so appreciate it. Wish you guys well, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us again. And if you have questions, send them in to us at questions@abidingministries.com, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep. See you then. See you, Denny.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.